We just talked about, well, I'm from Munich, South Germany, Bavaria, but I guess you recorded parts of the album or the album down there in South Germany as well.
Yes, we recorded the album with Harold Faltermeyer in just outside Munich for about 9 weeks, and then we went back to London to finish it off for about another 6 weeks.
So what basically happened then down there in Munich? What was the connection, or why was it that you wanted to work with Harold?
Well, we decided that we wanted to get away from samples and kind of presets on synthesizers and stuff. And Harold Faltermeyer we thought of because we wanted to have a really great analog synthesizer programmer, and we knew he'd worked with Giorgio Moroder and with his own film soundtracks he's done, and Axel F, of course. And we like that kind of sound. We've always liked that kind of synthesizer sound. And we went and met him over there and explained that we quite wanted to use a lot of old synthesizers, old Moogs and ARPs and all that kind of stuff. And he was into this idea, and so we went ahead and did it with him.
When did the decision come that you don't want to have that many samples anymore?
Well, just that all records are based on samples nowadays. And we've, in the past, worked a lot with the Fairlight, which is basically all samples. I mean, it sounds great and everything, but after a while you just feel like having kind of warmer sound. And I think if you get lots of different sound sources and from different machines and real instruments and stuff, you get a kind of warmer sound with a bit more depth to it. And that was why. I mean, there are samples on the album, of course, though. I mean, we did overdubs when we came back to London. But the basis of the track is sounds that have been programmed for us by Harold. So, you haven't got a bass sound that's the same as someone else's bass sound.
But with the Liza Minnelli and even more current Dusty Springfield album, there was quite a lot of technique or more dance stuff involved. So when was it in between, I want to say, after the Dusty Springfield productions and now this album, that you came to the conclusion that you don't want to do this that much right now with your own record?
I don't know what you mean, sorry.
Dance stuff.
We've never made a decision like that. I mean, this album has still got dance tracks on it, like So Hard, Being Boring is a dance track. I think October Symphony is a dance track. End of the World's kind of a dance track. We made no decision like that. I mean, we recorded about 14 songs, and we put the songs on the album that sounded best together. In the past, our albums have all been kind of with different producers, whereas this one, we produced ourselves at Harold Faltermeyer, and Julie Mendelsohn mixed it all. So it has a kind of consistency, sort of flow throughout it, which we liked. But no, we love dance music. I think we're doing a dance remix album next. I think there's less high energy on this album. Chris was experimenting with different rhythms, which was the main reason for that, but we still like dance music a lot.
And for me, the album is, well, I want to say, kind of a ballad album. Very relaxed.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a ballad album. It's got 4 ballads on it or something, but we've always done a lot of ballads, Pet Shop Boys. All of our albums have had several ballads on them. But this one, I think it has a slightly more, it's more the musicals, it's more the rhythms, I think. It gives it a slightly more relaxed kind of feel, rather than sort of 124 beat per minute high energy stompers, which maybe we're famous for. But in fact, West End Girls was a kind of relaxed sounding groove. A lot of our records have been. When you have a hit record, like It's a Sin, and Always on My Mind, 2 big records we've had, they're both high energy records. People tend to assume that all you do is high energy. In fact, we haven't done that many high energy. If you really wanted to count our singles, there's only a few high energy ones. And we've always kind of had slightly different styles than that. But on this one, I think we just experimented further.
But why was it then that you put out So Hard as the first single?
Oh, well, we always thought it sounded like a single. And also, to be honest, it was finished. We only finished the album at the beginning of September. And the reality of releasing a single means that you have to have it delivered to the record company at the end of July. And So Hard was the only track finished at that point. But we always thought it was a possible single, anyway.
So what means experimenting in the studio for you? Means just trying out more things, getting more jazz elements in there, or even you started with this kind of folky band does, I want to say.
No, there's no folk or jazz elements in this. I don't really like folk music, to be quite honest. And I don't know anything about jazz, really. I just think when you start, the starting point of a song is a different kind of rhythm. Then maybe you get a different kind of song comes out of it. But then some of the songs, as with all our albums, the songs haven't just been written in the last 6 months or year. The songs have been written over the last 9 years. Because Chris and I have been writing songs since 1981. So we have a kind of back catalogue of songs that haven't been recorded. For instance, the last song on the album, Jealousy, was written in 1982. It was written eight and a half years ago. And it's meant to be on every single album we've ever made, because we've always thought it's a great song. This Must Be the Place I Waited Years to Leave. The music for that was written in 1987 or something when we were writing it, actually, but we never finished the song off. We always thought it was a great track, though. Nervously was written around 1982 or 81, I can't remember now. And so there's, the songs are... I think it would be a mistake to view this album as suddenly us writing a lot of songs in a different style, because they are written right across our last 8 years.
What's going to happen on this? As you mentioned, we're going to do a remix album next time, probably.
Well, we might do. I don't know. We might do. I don't want to talk about it, so we might not do it.
But what do you think about all this remixing stuff? We have Tom's Diner with a disco beat right now. We have an Englishman in New York with a disco beat. All these songs. Is this the sound of the 90s?
Well, some of them are better than the originals, aren't they? I mean, I hated Tom's Diner, but I quite like the DNA version. And I really like... Actually, the two ones you've mentioned, I think, are two good examples where it works. And I really like Sting's Ben Liebrand mix of that. But I know, it's a bit boring, really, isn't it? All these, but it's the things that's really boring is it's the same drum beat. it's always the soul-to-soul drum beat that you just put on, and it kind of works with everything somehow. Magically works, doesn't it? And so I don't know. I suppose it's a bit boring, really.
So you're a little bit bored with the music scene or what?
No, I'm not bored at all with it. Well, I'm not bored with the dance music scene. I'm bored with everything else. But I think dance music's really good at the moment. It hasn't really got the thrust that it had maybe last year or the year before, but there's still some very good records being made, and I think...
You're listening to rock?
Rock? No. Well, unless I'm watching Super Channel in Germany, then I hear quite a lot of rock. But otherwise, I don't.
So you're mainly doing, big rave going on. The disco stuff, as you did with, Liza Minnelli or Dusty Springfield, so you just want to focus on, producing dance music even in the future?
Well, we've never just done dance music, we've always done ballads as well. But we've never kind of got involved in rock music or anything like that. So actually, it's also kind of where we make records doesn't really lend itself to rock. We kind of sit down with drum machines and program, and and that doesn't really produce a kind of rock type feel the way we do anyway. I think we'll probably do. I think our next stuff will probably be even more dance orientated than this album. I think.
Yeah, I already talked about this with Neil, because for me this is a much more relaxed album, and even the Pet Shop Boys go in a different alley for me.
Yeah, I think it is different from the previous one, but you always react against what you've been doing previously, and I think that we'll react against this album for the next one. I think it's just a natural thing to do.
Which one would you say is jazz in the album, as you started
Jazz?
with jazz? Well, there's for me a little bit, or a little.
I think
do you mean jazz rock fusion? That's track.
Not to that degree, but my October Symphony, there's for me a little bit gospel, a little bit Olita Adams, a little bit classical is at the end. Maybe
I don't even know who Olita Adams is.
Oh, yeah, isn't she the Tears of Fields discoverer?
Oh, is she? The start of being boring, the slow start, is the only thing that sounds vaguely jazzy, I think. we like edited that so the LP started with a totally different mood. So when the LP started, you would think, "Wow, this sounds nothing like the Pet Shop Boys." So it's a kind of surprise. October Symphony is more of a. I don't know how to characterise the rhythm of.
Well, it's hard to characterise it because there are lots of different musical elements in there. There's kind of a funky drummer type drum track going on. Then there's some house piano. There's a string quartet, and there's some Johnny Marr guitar on it as well. So you've kind of got elements.
Jay as well,
and then you've got Jay singing kind of soulful backing vocals. So you've got lots of very different elements there which all come together to create something new. Never really thought of it as being jazz. But jazz can be lots of different things, can't it? I mean, so.
For me, on the one hand, the music scene is going to covering these songs, as I mentioned, Tom's Diner or The Englishman in New York. But on the other hand, for me, people are going back not to the basic or roots, but just to quote some examples again, to give you kind of an expression which music I mean. For me, George Michael, he's doing much more mellow music right now. He's not doing the wham stuff anymore. Tears for Fears, they cut down from the synths. They're doing kind of the Beatles stuff. And for me, and that's what I wanted to mention with the Go in a Different Alley, the Pet Shop Boys doing something in this way.
I don't think we haven't deliberately gone down a different alley. We're still very much interested in writing pop songs with dance rhythms, and I think it's a bit boring when everyone starts just kind of chilling out. Just, George Michael was definitely better, I think, when he was writing pop songs, like Freedom and all that stuff. It was far better, and I don't think we're moving away from that at all. In fact, there's still, sort of traditional pop songs on our album and that.
I don't think there's many people nowadays interested in pop music. And I think George Michael hasn't really written a pop song since Wham ended. There's not a pop song on this album. There's not a pop song on his last album. Tears for Fears, I don't know a lot about Tears for Fears, really, but I don't think they really write pop songs so much nowadays either. Whereas we love pop songs. When Being Boring starts this album, the first track on the album, you're under no doubt that this is a pop song. It's got a very kind of catchy hook, and it's kind of an unusual pop song, which is what we've always tried to do, to play around with pop songs, to bring different things into them. But it's still a really pop kind of approach. It has a very kind of, if you think of the start of My October Symphony, it's got a very real pop freshness to it, with all the ooze and all that kind of thing. And The End of the World is a very kind of pop-sounding song to me, and of course So Hard is. So I don't think we're moving away from that. I think there's not more people. I think one of the problems with the influence of dance music on other kinds of music at the moment is that there aren't really a lot of pop songs around. And I think it's boring people putting soul-to-soul dance beat on everything. In George Michael's album, he's got a soul-to-soul rhythm on some of them, and it kind of gets a bit boring when everyone's got the same rhythm. But having said that, we've got a funky drummer rhythm on My October Symphony, which everyone else has done as well, because there's something incredibly attractive about it. It's kind of unavoidably seductive at the moment, that.
Being boring, starting an album with such a track, or line, being boring. But what is this song about? What is so being boring?
Well, the song, of course, is about not being boring. We thought the title was kind of funny because we read somewhere about the Pet Shop Boys always being boring, and I thought it was quite a good phrase, being boring. And people have often said that we're boring on the television and things like that. I think we kind of like the idea of boringness, and so it was kind of rather a provocative title. The first track of the Pet Shop Boys album is called Being Boring, and in fact it's a song about growing up and deciding what you want to be. and then actually getting there. And me looking at my friends who I had in Newcastle, and we all used to want to be pop stars and stuff, and not have bored. We never wanted to be being boring, and how it all ended up. One of those friends has died, for instance, and that's mentioned, kind of referred to in the last verse. So it has a kind of elegiac quality. When a close friend dies that you've grown up with, it kind of makes you look back to the past. And that was what we all, none of us wanted to be boring. We always wanted to do something different.
The End of the World, kind of a fatalist song title or outlook to the future. What's even going on in this world?
Well, in England there's a phrase where if someone thinks the situation they're in is terrible, someone will say, "Oh, it's not the end of the world." And so that's all it is. It's about a kind of adolescent trauma, because your boyfriend or your girlfriend hasn't phoned you up until you're going to finish with them. And that's what it's about. It's about when I was an adolescent, I was always arguing with my parents and stuff. I was a bit of a pain, really. And, there's always doors slamming and you're having to sit up at night and do homework and it's really crap. And that's all it is. So it's just you're making a drama out of something. It's not a very profound song. But in the last verse, as it says, the end of the world, it kind of refers to this bit that people were saying in the 1990s that it was going to be the end of, well, there's all these predictions that it's the end of the world. So in the last verse it refers to these kind of apocalyptic
Do you believe
warnings.
in this? Do you believe in this fatalist or apocalyptic?
No, I don't really know. But I don't know. Oh, it's all Nostradamus or something, isn't it? Although it's rather spooky because all these predictions are right on course at the moment, aren't they? But I mean...
Are they though?
Oh yes, no, they're supposed to be according to... I mean, I don't know that, but according to Nostradamus...
Isn't it all written in such a way that anything can be interpreted in it?
Yes, it can, I think.
Yeah. Best not to think about these things, I think, really.
Well, just go in the disco and just close yourself away?
Well, no, but I mean, reading a book that was written however many years ago isn't going to help anybody, is it, really? And, it's a bit fatalistic, that, really, isn't it? Just like, there's nothing we can do about it, kind of thing. So I think there's nothing you can do about it. Why worry about it?
What about doing another duo for this album?
Another
How much
what?
did you think about doing another duo for this album? Duo song, for example, as you had it with the...
Dusty Springfield.
I see.
Right.
That song came about because of a songwriter, Los Angeles, who knew our manager, wanted to meet us and suggested writing a song with her. And so that just came about like that. It wasn't as if we decided to write a song as a duo.
And then we got Dusty to sing.
Then we got Dusty to sing it, so it was a one-off, really. That it wasn't. I haven't really written any songs that would suit that really recently.
So
this was more of a fun time thing.
It was just something that came up, and it was great to get Dusty Springfield to do it, and of course we've worked with her since then. But there's no duet. We haven't got any other duets we've ever written, have we? I mean, if we ever... I think we'd only ever get another duet if we wrote with another woman songwriter, really. I mean, then maybe we'd have one then. But it's a pretty unusual thing to come. I think it's completely a one-off then.